We, of course, know that one facet of this shutdown involves southern Arizona, specifically Adelita Grijalva. And all of this does tie into the larger Jeffrey Epstein saga. Now that there's a renewed sense of optimism that the government will be funded soon, there's also a renewed sense of curiosity about whether the House will force a vote related to the release of more Epstein files. A petition introduced by Republican Representative Thomas Massie is one signature away from forcing a vote on the release of new DOJ files. And Representative Adelita Grijalva, who won a special election recently, would be the one signature that would be required to trigger a vote in the House to pass it. Kaelan Deese is here. He's a Justice Department reporter for the Washington Examiner. This is a talker. A lot of people are curious about this story. Should this bill pass the House, it would need to clear the Senate afterward, and then it would need to be signed by President Trump, Kaelan. So what's the likelihood that it does exactly that it gets through the House, it gets through the Senate, and then it's signed by the president?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, because we haven't heard too much coming from the White House about whether the president would be signing this into existence after it, gets to his desk. And I think that that's something that has been on a lot of people's minds, but also the delay that we've seen from the investigation. We know that the House Oversight Committee conducting the investigation, both Republicans and Democrats, have said that they have not ceased their work with this, but because of the government shutdown, there's been reportedly a bit of a stop of the flow of documents coming over from the DOJ as it pertains to what they've been needing. Now, we do have some release of some transcripts that have happened from some of these transcribed interviews. Namely, the most recent one was the Alex Acosta, the former prosecutor that was accused of brokering this sweetheart deal for Epstein back in the late 2000s concerning his conduct and prostitution involvement there in Florida. Now, what we're looking at with what's going on with Representative-elect Grijalva is that she is expected to be sworn in at around 4 p.m. on Wednesday. And shortly after that, I'm told from a great congressional reporter with the Washington Examiner, Lauren Green, that she is supposed to be signing that position relatively soon after she's sworn in. Now, there is rules and stipulations that state that after this petition meets the required amount of signatures, that there is a wait of around 7 legislative days, which coincidentally just happens to bump in with the proposed or the expected Thanksgiving recess. So when it comes to actually bringing this to a vote on the House floor, we could be looking at early December. So this is really just the first baby steps to getting that actually to a House floor vote.
Kaelan, one thing that's worth tracking is, let's say this thing does pass the finish line. Let's say that it passes the House and it does make its way to the point where the DOJ would have to release more Epstein files. Do we have any indication of how substantive a potential release could actually be?
Right now, the indication at this point is that the DOJ might have some files in possession, namely some files that are being kept by the FBI that have never seen or had public eyes on it. But what exactly is in those files is really anyone's guess. And that is, I think, really the crux behind all of this, is that the DOJ has, ever since it has sort of gone back on its memo that was released in July, saying that there was just not anything else really there as far as the Epstein case goes. We've seen efforts, obviously, for the DOJ to conduct interviews with Ghislaine Maxwell, and there's even been some reporting this week about Ghislaine Maxwell seeking some sort of commutation from the president, and also reporting that indicates that perhaps she might be receiving some special services while she's in her federal prison. But all of that is to say is that we really can't say what exactly the DOJ might have that they aren't releasing. And of course, the House Oversight Chairman James Comer has been putting a lot of trust in the DOJ, saying that they are complying with everything that they've been asking for. But yet, we have to remember that this is an effort really that's been promoted by Representative Thomas Massie in Kentucky. And he, of course, has a lot of distrust about, just letting this be handling that the oversight committee is doing. And he thinks that because it's been such a eating question on everyone's minds, that there shouldn't be any real stopgaps with this, that it should just all come out. But what is that all? I think is really the question that is perplexing everyone, because as far as we've seen, even former attorneys general, they've been asked questions about, was the current sitting president Donald Trump implicated with any of Epstein's crimes and any business involving underage girls. That has not come out from any part of this investigation. So we've seen the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, saying that this is just a shiny object that Democrats keep fixating on. They think it'll be something that could potentially burn the president, but no evidence has come out thus far.
It's worth reiterating that Thomas Massie is a Republican. He tweeted this out, saying the 218th and final signature for the Epstein discharge petition will happen tomorrow. Okay, Kaelan, the DOJ has already, they've released files on Epstein. Is there any clarity on how many files are left? How big a piece of the pie have we not seen yet?
Well, it could be anywhere in the range of just everything that I just mentioned there about the FBI still holding some files. But the FBI is very well, anyone who knows the FBI knows that they keep these types of things that they aren't, disclosing under lock and key. So the actual volume of materials, I think, is really something that you can't really speculate on. But the idea is that there are certain things that the FBI always holds on to, sometimes things that don't wind up getting into grand jury proceedings, or even courtroom proceedings for criminal cases. And that could come down to a number of various reasons. Maybe it was certain evidence that they didn't think actually stacked up to muster, or they didn't think was relevant to any cases that they were ultimately going to bring some sort of charges for. So again, it's a disappointing answer, but there's not too much we know as far as the volume at this point.
Finally, if this bill doesn't go anywhere, are there any other avenues that could trigger the release of more files?
I think that at this point, this is the ultimate, release function that they have right now, that the Congress has at this point, to really bypass any sort of the gatekeeping that's going on. The DOJ historically has always exhibited the final authority on whether to release these things. There's, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of documents over the years that the DOJ likely has in its possession relating to all sorts of cases that just have never seen the light of day. So again, there's multiple reasons why that could become something that they just choose not to release. But I think that, this is something that, if as long as it's DOJ maintains that, they're going to release things that they feel are relevant to this, then it's sort of all incumbent upon them. But I think that it would be so interesting to see the president go along with this and say, you know what, I am going to sign this, because that would be something that I think would honestly go into every single thing that we've seen thus far, that this investigation has shown, is that there's really not a whole lot of there. It would be very interesting to see what the president does once this hits his desk. If he were to say not sign it for whatever reason, I think for Democrats at least, that would become their new linchpin in this whole debate about whether or not Trump is implicated. And I think they would definitely use that. And so I can't see a lot of good prospects for Trump saying no to this if it ultimately does pass the Senate, pass that 60 votes threshold. But I can see it going either way, just because Trump himself has said, even in interviews last year, that he thinks there's a lot of phony stuff. That's his opinion. He could be talking about maybe what he sees as potentially defamatory comments made about people that can't be proven, or that investigators weren't able to prove. And so that seems to be what he's hedged on, at least in public comment.
Kaelan Deese covers the Department of Justice for the Washington Examiner. Good to see you. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Austin.